Good afternoon, JB. How are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm good. How you going?
Yeah, fair to middle. Not too bad. Kind of settled in, I suppose. Got over the big road trip.
Yeah, how'd that go? So I'm just checking to see whether we're on or not, brother. But
It says live up there.
does it? Okay, that's on
I don't know.
Restream though. But I was talking about
Oh yeah,
Facebook.
I'll check it myself too. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
you
to make
check it,
sure.
brother. Yeah, but yeah, how'd the road trip go?
Yeah, it's pretty good, mate. Yeah, we're on live, mate. Yeah, on JB
We
and
are.
CJ. Yeah.
Okay.
So she's our guest just sends a message said she's trying to get on,
Okay.
but there's
Well,
there's a couple of little. Well, there's a couple of little hoops before you get on, isn't it?
I'm not sure, mate. Because not for me, but yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
but the trip was good, brother.
Oh yeah, fantastic, mate. Yeah, we left on a Friday, so we were up in Townsville on Friday night. We stayed Saturday night, went to the knockout final between the Cowboys and uh, the Knights, Newcastle Knights. It was a last minute sort of win again, so come from behind
Yep.
win. Yeah, saw that in the AFL too on Saturday morning.
100%, 100%. We did, yeah.
Oh,
It was I think it's the second biggest comeback in AFL history. So
oh right, jeez.
now we have got our guest here, brother. So I'll just bring her
All right.
on.
Yes.
Hang on one sec. There we go.
There she is.
There I am.
Hello. There you go.
Hello. Yeah, sorry about that. It was just hard to get in.
No worries. Hey, now, do you know JB? Jack
No, I
Bulman? You might have
don't.
seen him on a video, maybe.
Where may I have
Mental
seen?
Health First Aid. On a video, Mental Health First Aid.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Jack Bulman. Yeah, JB.
Yeah, right.
Well, there you go. Meet
Welcome
Karen.
to JB and CJ, Karen.
Yeah. I better put my glasses on. Might be able to see you better. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, right.
How you been going? All right? Going okay?
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, good. Bit tired, but yeah, all is well.
Yeah, you're doing a bit of tripping around, I see.
Yeah, I have been, and mainly just, we just finished the last Darwin Suicide Conference last week. So, yeah, that's mainly what I've been up to. And this week we've got a workshop.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, listen, I'm just going to say I want to acknowledge country that I'm on. I'm on Yidinji country up in Cairns, so I'm up in North Queensland now. Left Yui country in Mackay last week, got up here, and I also want to have a shout out to my family's Torres Strait Islander side as well, the Budigal people, Budu Island, where Dad comes from. So, but pay my respects to elders in this particular place as well, this country here. So I'll hand over to JB to do his acknowledgement.
Thank you, brother. Well done, as always. I too like to acknowledge all our mobs, all our countries that we're on, and pay respects to all our elders, past, present, and any up and coming as well. And just pay the utmost respects to all our old people, our ancestors, and everyone that's got us where we are today through their hard work and fighting for whatever needed to be fought for. I want to pay respects to my mob, the Money people down there in southwestern New South Wales, and just thank my old people, my ancestors, and all our elders, past, present, and any up and coming as well. And over to you, Karen. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so can you hear me clearly?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, cool. So, my mob are Eastern Islander, Warlpiri and Jaru from Central and Western Desert. So I pay my respects to my mob down that way in Central Desert area. But I'm on Larrakia land, so I'm up here in the beautiful Darwin and the NT. So, yeah, also pay my respects to the Larrakia people. Yeah. So you're just wanting to know a bit about what I've been doing?
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Karen.
About myself? Okay, so so I started working in the mental health and suicide space probably around about 2017 when I myself had lost somebody that I loved dearly and who was close to me around suicide, who had suicided. Prior to that, I was working in the government, but when I realised, like, my own family and my own family and friends over the years who I've lost to suicide, I decided that it was important for me to shift over to something that I was passionate in, especially once I also went through my own suicidal ideations, and I realised how hard it was for me to find support out there in our community. And I was thinking, well, if it's really hard for me to find support, how would it be for my people to find support? So that's when I sort of went into the detention centre system and worked with a lot of our kids from communities, trying to make a change. However, it was a little bit difficult doing that. So due to policies and legislation and all the rest of it. So I decided to leave and then start a community-led safe space in Darwin called Arnie's Place, which is a non-clinical community-led safe space run by people with lived experience. And the way I started, because I didn't have much funding at all, but I got a little bit of funding from Rose in the Ocean, about $20,000 a year for 3 years. And then I decided to partner up with Grassroots Youth Action Palmerston, who are an amazing community organisation, and they had philanthropic funding. So from there, we decided to partner up and build Arnie's Place. I mainly focus on all the mental health and suicidal stuff with our youth. And they focus on getting the kids back into work, apprenticeship, schooling, just keeping them on the straight path, getting them into cultural programs and all the rest of it. Pretty much everything, right? This is GAP does. So they're amazing. It's an amazing organisation. I'm so grateful to be a part of them as well, and to have a partnership program where we're all really passionate about. So a lot of our kids are coming in and out of the detention centre, so we're trying to do some sort of, like, some form of preventative from them always going in and out of the system trying to make a change. So that's one part of my business. The rest of it is basically I travel around and I deliver Aboriginal mental health first aid workshops, youth Aboriginal mental health first aid workshops, and Deadly Thinking with Charlie over there. Yeah. And the other stuff I'm doing is some programs around through narrative therapy, because I've found over the years that Western way doesn't always work with our people. So I'm trying to build programs from that narrative therapy perspective, where I feel that, and art therapy. So where I feel a lot of our people, they seem to engage more and keep focused doing it through narrative therapy and art. So, yeah, that's me pretty much.
Yeah, pretty deadly. Down. Yeah.
Hey?
So now, well done. I mean, you're still doing it, I suppose, Karen. But yeah, and I've obviously we've had a bit of a relationship in terms of the work we do around mental health. But the correction centre you talk about that's Dondale, eh? With those young fellas coming out of there. Yeah. Is that the notorious Dondale? Everyone knows about Dondale. And what happened there. So it's a difficult place to work in, as I remember you telling me, and you get more impact doing what you're doing right now then.
Yes, I feel like that we have more of a positive impact on our children doing it the way we're doing it, like that non-clinical safe space where we're all aunties and like family members. We come across like aunties. So we're there to take care of their mental health, their physical health. You know, if they need to have new clothes or anything like that, we're there to support everything a mother would do or an auntie would do. So yes, just their second home base is a house that we rent from Larrikey Elder, who has recently passed away, and who was an amazing man. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have even been able to get off the ground, because we had no support or no funding to have a safe space. The safe space is a house, so it's a non-clinical place. So it's a house where there's 3 bedrooms, it's upstairs, downstairs. They've got trampolines, sensory swings, everything like that downstairs, and upstairs we've got a couple of rooms. One's a sensory room, which they utilise especially when they're feeling heightened in any way. They go in there, they know how to self-regulate. They call it their sleeping room. And that's fine if they want to go and have a camp, if they're feeling tired or feeling stressed and things like that. And then once they're feeling a bit better, they normally come back out and, you know, get something to eat or watch some TV or do a program, all sorts of stuff.
Fantastic
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
I mean, and Karen, tell us a little bit about the setup of the safe space. I mean, because the work that I suppose all three of us do here is about creating that safe space for our mobs to be able to talk about their concerns and issues, but then also they have that space because they do know a lot of the solutions as well. So tell us a little bit about setting up that safe space.
Oh, look, it was hard to begin with because I think a lot of people think that wouldn't necessarily work. Like everyone goes for these clinical spaces, whereas I think that with our people, they don't feel there's always a shame or a stigma or about going into these clinical spaces, and they're quite cold as well. I feel like, as in, there's no one there that will come up and talk to you and see if you're okay and support you through to that mental health space. It's just like when you go into ED in Darwin, it's not culturally safe at all, you know. And if you're suffering with mental health or anything like that, you're expected to wait in the waiting room for hours because you're not seen as an emergency. Because unless you've got anything physically wrong with you, they would obviously be seen first. But if you're going through, say, suicide ideations or experiencing high levels of anxiety and trauma and things like that, they just leave you sitting there. So I think it makes it worse for you. And I would only assume that a lot of our mob would just get up and walk out, even if they attempted to go there to get support. A lot of our mob, I think, just don't go. It's just not somewhere where they feel safe enough to go and supported. Sitting in a waiting area for hours until a nurse comes and get you. And majority of the times, the stories I've heard, only to be told, you know, there's nothing wrong with you, everything's fine, or we don't have enough beds. So it makes it really difficult, and then they're just basically sent off. I've spoken about also with a lot of our on the ground when we're talking about suicide. I've had to deal with a lot of suicides on the ground where we could be the first contact, where it really should be thoroughly or the NATO organisations, but instead these communities are actually contacting us, myself and GAP, if a suicide's attempt or someone's feeling suicidal or post-suicide. So then what happens is we might get the call and we don't get funded for this, but we're the ones on the ground that are trying to work with the families and support them. Because when I've tried to reach out to these larger organisations to get them to help, to support me, to support them, or just directly support them, they always come up with either lack of funding, no counselling support, have to wait, there's a waiting period and all the rest of it. But when these people need help, they need help now, not in 2, 3, 4 weeks' time. You know, and as we know, like suicide's a ripple effect, and it happens quite commonly up here in the territory where another person will end up taking their life in that family, but there's just no support. There's no support. And when it comes to, if I get a phone call, what I have noticed and what I am wanting to keep a spreadsheet. Every time I get somebody that suicide attempts or has lost someone to suicide that day, and I've tried to ring I've tried to ring 000, the first thing they ask is, are they Indigenous or not? And then when you say they're Indigenous, so if it's a suicide attempt and you say they're Indigenous, they don't turn up at all, or they may turn up a couple hours later. 2 days later, a day or 2 days later. Nobody ever turns up when they need to, when that emergency happens. And I've had 3 non-Indigenous people that I've helped in the community, and I've rung up, said they're non-Indigenous, just answering their questions. They've turned up within half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour with a whole team of psychs.
Gee,
so that's the difference. So now I refuse to say whether that person is Indigenous or not. And this is why a lot of our mob don't want to ring the police, because they don't get help.
Does that work though, Karen? If you don't say or identify who the person is, do they still come a bit early?
No, they try. Oh, yeah, they will come if it's a non-Indigenous person.
Yeah.
And I got quite angry with them last time, which was a non-Indigenous person, and I said to them, "Look, it's a life, and I'm not going to stop asking me that question because it frustrates you when you're doing this all the time." And that's the first question they ask: "What does it matter? It's a life. I need this life to be saved. Can you come and help us?"
Yeah.
But yeah, I struggle with that.
Yeah, it is. It's becoming. I think the need for someone like some organisation or some place, a safe space like Arnie's Place, is a huge need. And obviously you're saying that what you're telling us at the moment is that people feel more comfortable coming there in the first place, and that's where they come when they are feeling really bad. When they are struggling. So.
Yeah.
And I can understand. And we've had this conversation a couple of times about how organisations like yourselves who got kicked off, probably grassroots sort of stuff, no funding from any, authorities that have that type of support, but through philanthropics and through other means, it's just sad that organisations like yours aren't being supported the way it should be.
No, we don't get any funding. We've had ministers, we've had everybody come in and see, and they all say, "Oh, this is amazing, this is great, we need this across the territory," or whatnot. But no funding, no one comes to see what's meant financial support. And obviously running a house, it's like a household. You've got power bills, you've got internet, you've got the upkeep of food, and all the things that the kids need, clothing, whatever. So it takes, like, it's a lot of our money, and even our own money. Like, even just to start it, I was just doing a lot of afterpaying and paying it off on my because I'm not loaded. So I used to just do a lot of afterpay just so I can start getting things for their sensory rooms and things like that. But we had to pretty much build it from scratch, and then try and get as many donations of clothes and things like that as possible, food and stuff like that. But yeah, it's beg and borrowing, but not stealing.
Beg, borrow and steal,
just to get it up and running. But yeah.
So tell me, like, over a space of a week, how many young people would come to the centre?
So normally, like I said, I'm not always there because it's normally gapped that space there because I'm out travelling trying to make a living as well, doing the Aboriginal mental health first aid workshops. But I think we have up to about 40 kids at the moment, and then you think about it, it's 40 kids, and then you got 40 families to also take care of, because when you're taking care of an individual child, you're also taking care of that whole family, so that they're all safe and they're all supported. And because sometimes you'll have families that the power hasn't been on for weeks, and the kids have got nowhere to, so then we're having to support that family as well.
That's a huge expectation, but it's also a huge service to deliver. So, what do you guys do? What do you guys do for yourselves in terms of that, potential burnout?
I'm not very good. So as you know, Charlie, we do all this self-care stuff. But when it comes to my own self-care, I really struggle with it, because you just feel like I'm just non-stop. I'm either in a conference or I'm travelling around communities trying to support our communities around mental health, or we're in Arnie's Place and focusing on the kids and whatever's going on there. So it's non-stop. And, we don't get any funding for anything, plus we don't get funding to have holidays.
To have holidays, that's right. No, it's a great idea. I remember talking about it. I used to go to my auntie's place quite a lot, when I was growing up, and it was always safe to go there. You got all the other cousins and that there as well, so we'd go and play and do stuff around, go over to auntie's place. I always say, they always ask me, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm going to my auntie's place, catch up with the boys." And it's a great, it's a kind of natural place to gravitate to, because you feel safe there and you can have some fun, and you're quite happy being there, sort of stuff. So great concept, but you need more. You need more aunties.
100%. Like, if the government gave us funding to have Arnie's Place all across, wherever Australia, that'd be fantastic. And as long as they're run by community leaders, community-led safe space, not clinical-led. From the people on the ground. and the people that have that passion, have that lived experience to want to support, you know, the rest of the community. I think that's, you know, it's really important to have.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So what's the age groups you cater for, Karen?
I think the youngest is about 11.
Up until
25,
beautiful.
26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we often see, like, and you know, like in the work that we do as well, you know, right across the country, and you know, going into communities and that, there's a gap in, you know, some of the age groups that don't get looked after. So I think well done for looking after, you know, 11 to 25. I mean, it's a massive demographic to be looking after. So well done. So,
yeah, they definitely need more funding in that preventative. Like, I think they've now dropped the.
Oh, still there, Karen? Oh,
we've lost you, Karen.
Lost you, Karen.
Karen.
We just can't hear you. Sound. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes, you're back. Yeah. That's good. Oh. No, I can't hear you now. Hold on.
So it's amazing work that Karen's doing, CJ. So,
oh my word, you know, and yeah, just a bit, you know, I get worried about it because there's so much that she has to do, and like she said, she doesn't stop. You know, it's just a constant.
well,
you know,
that's a thing that we do talk about a lot, CJ, is, you know, self-care for, you know, on the ground workers and people that are looking after others, and we do see it a lot. And Karen just confirmed that again, that, you know, sometimes we're not good at looking after ourselves and being able to, you know, care for ourselves. So
yeah. So I don't know where she finds time to do that, but I know that she does go out and a lot of the work she does out in delivering mental health first aid, youth mental health first aid, deadly thinking youth, is all for this organisation, you know, to help fund Arnie. So, you know, she's constantly working all over the place to be able to afford to be able to keep Arnie's running. You know what I mean? And are you back, Karen? Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, they've dropped the age back down to 10 again, where the kids are in and out of detention centre at the age of 10. I think that there needs to be more funding in that preventative space. So we need to catch our kids around about, as soon as we see our kids starting to not attend, don't want to go to school and starting to muck up a little bit, and that could be as young as 8. So, you know, we need to have some sort of prevention from them going in and out of that, getting into that, in and out of that detention centre system. Yeah, trying to break that cycle. And it's about catching them early.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it should be about preventative rather than, you know, having that ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. I mean, it's not helping anyone. So, you know, the sooner that we get to that, and you know, and even if it is detention that someone finds himself in, it should be about rehabilitation rather than punishment. So,
so there's no rehabilitation in there.
No. I mean, we do a lot of work in the jails around Australia, and it's probably the same thing. You know, there's no rehab. It's all set up for punishment, and the amount of power that the prison guards and prison officers have, even around access to health, is just deplorable, to be honest. So I see where you're coming from, and you know, like we see that a fair bit around where we work as well. So
definitely. Karen, what sort of programs have you got for young people now? You're talking about getting them early and getting them back into school and all that sort of stuff. So how do you do that?
Oh, so look, Arnie's Place, like I said, Arnie's Place don't get funding for it, but can you hear me still?
Just dropping out a little bit there, Karen. So
sorry, my uncle keeps
might be your internet.
stop. Okay. So, like I said, with Grassroots Action Palmerston, they do all that, getting them in back into school, back into getting them into apprenticeships, back into education, and all the rest of it. So they support the children back into that space where they need to stay. And if they are struggling, then
Yep.
sorry, people keep ringing me. I shouldn't have done it from my phone. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Can you hear me still?
Yep.
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 So, so they, I guess, and they're liaising a lot with the schools out here at Palmerston on how they can support, because a lot of the schools now realise that, okay, the kids aren't turning up to school. And from Arnie's Place perspective and the kids, they're thinking, well, school's not nice to these kids. You know, they don't want to be at school. That's not what's working for them. So how do we make this work for the child? So that's why then now there's a lot of so GAP liaises quite closely with the schools to support the children maybe back into school, or get the teachers to come to Arnie's Place to maybe talk to the child there where that's their safe space, so then they can talk to them about why they don't want to go to school and what can change. So there's a bit of support around that. But like I said, when it comes to funding, there is no funding for it. There needs to be more funding for preventative programs for these children. And I believe also is bringing back these bush camps and things like that. I think that they work for the children. Locking them up in cells is not going to work for these kids. It's not going to make a change. A lot of these kids majority of the kids have not only mental health disorders, but also disabilities. So that can be FASD, ADHD, autism, whatever. So they're not looking at those things when they're in Dondale. They're not looking at the medical side of things on how to support their disability. They're not looking at any healing programs or rehabilitation stuff. They're not. It's just basically getting them locked up in a cell 24/7.
Yeah. Discipline. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, listen, do you think the NT had a change of government recently? Do you think that's a good thing, or do you think there might be some opportunities there?
Well, look, I don't know. So, I mean, let's wait to see I don't like the fact that they put it back down to 10. So that's a big
10,
problem
that's right.
for me. Yeah. Whether they're going to change anything for the better, I honestly do not know. Wait and see, I guess. But I
Wait
think,
and see it.
yeah, I think it's still going to be focused on keeping the kids in prison and incarcerated and doing the same thing that has worked. It's not working.
Not working, no. Out of sight, out of mind. Really, that's what's going on,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I mean, there also needs to be a little bit of work done around, why some of these kids are playing up. It's not just a matter of they're bad kids or whatever you want to call them. It's about being able to understand a little bit more about their story and where they're coming from and what's happening, in the overall family and community environment as well. So, it's about being able to work on that holistic approach as well, isn't it? So
Yeah. Which is what Arnie's Place and GAP tries to do that holistic thing, take care of the whole family, figure out what's going on for the family and the youth. It's a bit of a struggle, but there definitely needs to be more funding into that. Whether this is true or not, I need to have a look. Haven't had the chance, but apparently they're removing the suicide portfolio from the NT. I find that very concerning if it is true, because we've got the NT has the highest rates of suicide in the world, not just nationally, but the world. So if that's what Liberals bringing to the table, I'm not real happy about that.
No one should be happy about that. That's just not right. That's wrong. Yeah. Ridiculous. Yeah. It's Karen, I was going to ask you. We talk a little bit about when we're out there doing stuff around mental health, about the loss of identity stuff. And do you find that young people are losing their cultural identity to other kind of identities, I suppose? You know what I mean? Are they're listening too much, or they're on social media or whatever, picking up bad habits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what the answer is for that.
Yeah, look, definitely. And look, Uncle Tony Lee used to do all the cultural healing stuff in Arnie's place with the kids, but he's now passed.
Great man.
Yeah. So we Serena and Kat and Jodie from Gap, they keep them closely connected with their culture. And even if that means taking them back out on doing camps with them and getting them into fishing and stuff like that, and doing all those and doing all the things like when they're at Arnie's place, they don't just sit there on their phones and play computer games. They actually do some stuff. They actually do programs, go play downstairs, jump on the trampoline, and things like that. So it's getting them back into being kids again as well. Like we never grew up with social media and all that. But I don't know. It's hard one.
I think too, again, I mean, through our work that we do, I mean, we did some work in New South Wales last week with Department of Community Justice, and we were working with the staff, and it doesn't matter like where you are in what state, what whose country you're in. But there's so much of that sense of belonging that is missing with people, and again, we seen it last week, and if like a lot of our adults are really struggling with that whole identity, that sense of belonging. So you can imagine how our young ones and are really struggling as well with that sense of belonging, and then they see something that's happening somewhere else, and they grab onto that and try and run with that as well. So I reckon again, what you're doing there with being able to let kids be kids is something that is really relevant to this day and time, to be honest. So thank you.
Yeah, look, and I understand what you're saying. Like our kids have all grabbed onto rap and that Americanized thing, and they want to be gangs and gangsters and things like that, which is what I try and work with our kids and talk to them about is what are our role models like. We have a lot of Aboriginal role models in this country. Maybe we need to start looking at that. We don't mind if they like rap. We all grew up with, well, I did, Tupac and all the rest of it. And but they do their it's a way that they also express themselves these days by they might not want to talk about anything with anyone in particular, but they'll express themselves through their rap song. So they do a bit of that at Arnie's place as well. Getting rap artists in to train with them to let them tell their stories through their songs, through their rap. So there is a bit of that. That's just the way it is these days, I guess. And if that works for them, that works for them.
Yeah. Character, does drug and alcohol come into play with some of these young fellows or young ladies?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Like, and there's big problems in the territory with when it comes to marijuana and ice. And obviously drinking. So we don't really have much support around AOD at Arnie's place. We are obviously, like I said, we've all got lived experience where we're coming from that peer-led, where we can talk to the kids about our experiences or what we know, or we can get them into programs around that AOD if we have concerns for a particular child. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
There'd be a lot of dual diagnosis as well, wouldn't there? Like with the drug and alcohol and mental health issues and those sort of things.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of our kids as well, because unfortunately, a lot of our children are also smoking dope at a young age.
Yep.
So, you can sometimes pick up that a child might have those signs of schizophrenia or things like that, but they can't be diagnosed till they're over the age of 18. Unsure why. I don't know if it's because their brain has to be fully developed, but I don't even think their brains are fully developed at 18. I think it's between 25 and 30.
Yeah.
But they won't diagnose schizophrenia, but sometimes you can see the symptoms of schizophrenia at a young age.
Yep.
But yeah, that's like anything. Like I said, a lot of these kids have a lot of mental health and trauma coming from intergenerational trauma and the trauma that's been put on them as, as young children. And, like I said, their brains aren't even fully developed yet. How do they expect, just say, for example, a 10-year-old child might have autism or something like that, and on top of it, they got all this trauma, and then you're chucking them into a cell for 24/7. How do you expect them to turn out as adults?
Yeah, it's not a formula, is it? Not a good formula. I mean, you obviously must have a lot of young people coming out of the detention centre as well as a kind of transition type thing. Is it? Does that happen a lot?
Yeah, so the kids normally come because they want to come. A lot of the kids know about Arnie's Place through word of mouth. Even at the start, when we had Arnie's Place, we didn't give out the address due to the fact that we had a lot of, what do they call it? Brain's gone dead. People trying to hunt them down and bash them and stuff like that. What do they call it? I'm just going brain dead. So we had a lot of that. So for us to keep the kids safe, protect the kids, we had to make sure that the address wasn't given out just to anyone, but all the kids knew the address. So it's only now that services are starting to become involved but we don't promote that address out to the community. But services know about where we are, and so do the kids. But we can't promote the address on social media or anything due to the fact that we have to keep our kids safe.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Charlie's gone. Charlie does this a little bit. His internet plays up a little bit, and then I think he forgets to pay the bill sometimes too.
Yeah, probably.
All good. Now, look, Karen, you're doing an amazing job there with Arties, and we know that struggle as well with the work that we do. We don't get funded either, and it just makes it so hard, and not being able to get that funding, and you're sort of chasing your tail a fair bit, I guess, and those sort of things. And as what Charlie said before about that self-care, and that it is really important that we are able to look after ourselves, so that we don't end up falling over and not being able to do what we love doing, and that's our work in community. So
I teach safe care, self-care all the time, but do I do it? No, but I should. I need to. 100%.
So is there anything that you do for yourself around that self-care?
The only thing I do, I'm just trying to think, what do I do? So my self-care is really just sitting at home, turning the phone off or turning it down and just watching Netflix.
Good start. And what are you watching on Netflix? Because I need a couple of good Netflix shows.
So I tell you, a really good one at the moment is Painkillers. Have you seen?
Okay.
Yeah, Painkillers. It's like a documentary slash drama, but it's actually of real life stories. About Big Pharma and how all this prescription medication ended up. They made the families that made so much money out of prescription medication, and the lives that were impacted in a negative way from it, like people that have lost their loved ones to prescription medication. And the reason why it really stood out for me, it's like you just end up binge watching it because it was so good. But also the things that stood out to me is because once upon a time in my life, I was actually addicted to benzos and endone, those prescription drugs. So I was addicted to them for 10 years. And then all of a sudden one day, the doctor turns around and says, oh, this is an S8 drug. You can't be on this. You're on high doses. This should not be happening. But nobody tried to support me to come off these prescription medications. So when I tried to come off on my own, it was like a long journey of suicidal ideations, mental health, in and out of, the mental health system, trial and error on antidepressants to try and get me in the right frame of mind. It was just a roller coaster of a ride for 3 years before I finally got through it.
Wow. that's a story in itself, isn't it? Really. So
Yeah, so I think it's a really good show to watch. It's a
yeah,
real
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. And just what you mentioned then before about having that support network. I mean, and we all need to have that support network. I mean, sometimes we think we can do it on our own and we don't need any support or anything, but it's really important that we do have that support network, and as big as we can make it, to so that we can get through our little ups and downs, and everything else that comes in between.
Yeah, for sure. I think my support network is my girlfriends or
Yeah.
my I've got good friends. So I've got some really good friends that I trust and I can talk to them about, anything. But that's my go-to, I guess. When I'm really struggling. My good friends.
Yeah. No, I mean we talk a lot about it in our workshops and programs that we run, and it's so important to have that support network, someone to have a yarn to, someone to tell your story to, and as we always say, like everybody's got a story, everybody needs that story heard, and it's just needs someone to listen to that story half the time, so.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's about supporting each other. We can't take their pain away from them when somebody's going through a mental health crisis, but what we can do is support them, ride those waves with them when they need it, when they need that support person.
Yeah,
Help.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, look, he's back. CJ's back. I think he's paid that
Paid the
invoice
bill.
on that last bill now.
I
So
paid the bill.
yeah,
I'm back on. I'm live.
Yeah. Mm,
Dear. I don't know what happened then. I think my computer's just sort of cracked it. But anyway, I'm on my phone too, Karen. So yeah, now I am. But that seems to
yeah.
be working a lot better for me. And look, I did hear everything you said. Once that went off, I was on the phone. But yeah, I'm glad I was able to link in before we. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's good. So. What else is happening? What else is happening? I mean, you talked a little bit about your history, I suppose, in terms of that. Um, what else? Is there something exciting happening on the horizon?
Let me think. I'm going to the Melbourne conference, suicide conference this year,
Oh
with the
yes,
Black Dog, because I'm also on the national advisory for the ILEC, for the Indigenous Black Dog sector, and so I'll be going. So that'll be good. Like it'll be good to go down and mix with others, other Aboriginal people from all over Australia, to talk about suicide and what they do in their communities as well.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, and I think I'm going to be doing Roses has just asked me to facilitate a program there. So we'll see how that goes. But that'll be exciting. Other than that,
Mm,
it's just really me traveling in and out of communities.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the
I,
moment
I,
week.
yeah. When we go around talking to communities, actually, Karen, we ask them what they do around suicide prevention. You know what I mean? And you guys, I know, in the territory, especially up in Darwin, then around Palmerston, do a lot of things around suicide.
Yeah.
It's not just, you don't wait for International Global Suicide Prevention Week or all that. You're trying to do that on the run all the time, don't you?
Yeah, so we've also got, I'm a part of Come Walk With Me. There's a lady named Vanessa Lowe who runs Come Walk With Me, and that's where each year on Suicide Week we do a march and we have boards of our loved ones lost to suicide and their shirts, and we do a bit of a march around Palmerston just so in memory of our loved ones, because, we don't want to forget them, but it's also a time to have everybody get together, and there's mothers that have lost their children to suicide, fathers, brothers, whatnot. And at least they can come together and talk to other mothers and other fathers, and get that, build that connection with them as well. So it's really good for that, because I think the power of lived experience is important. And if you've lost your child, I think of course, you're going to want to talk to another mother and see what they've gone through.
Mm,
So Come Walk with Me. Come Walk with Me is amazing through Vanessa Lowe, and the other one is Lydia from Sabrina's Reach for Life. So she just did the Darwin Suicide Conference, which was great. We just finished that off last year, and I was on the board for that. And she gave me the opportunity to also bring in as many Indigenous mob from communities as possible, because my end goal, my end goal is mainly, like, I can go around to these conferences and talk on behalf of these communities, but I think it's really important to give a voice back to them and bring them in to talk about what's going on in their community, not me talking on behalf. So Lydia was, I was really grateful to her this year to be able to give me the opportunity to bring in a lot of the, traditional mob from communities, to give them a voice to talk about what they do in their communities to try and prevent suicide and the issues that are impacting them. So, yeah.
Just out of a matter of interest, what are some of those communities that those people were from?
So the ones we had this year was from Strong Bala Women and Men. So they were from Catherine. Amazing group. So proud of the way they spoke. We also had a couple of people from Tiwi and Arnhem Land.
Good.
We had a couple of Indigenous services and things like that that came in and spoke, and that were also on the panel. I also brought in the beautiful Crystal Love. She is very well known up here in the Territory. She was the first transgender.
Yep.
Part of the LGBTIQ plus, and she came in to talk about her lived experience with being in a part of that community, but also being Indigenous, and the impacts of suicide in her community, which is the Tiwi Islands, which we all know the Tiwi is actually the highest in the world.
Yeah.
The NT. So I was really proud to have her in there, and she spoke so well, and I was just so proud of her. But I think that's what's really important, is bringing in bringing in our mob to actually talk and have that voice instead of us on their behalf.
No more from what area, right?
Sorry, Karen, you're breaking up there a little bit. So.
Sorry?
Just breaking up there a little bit.
Me?
Yeah, it might have been me talking. Yeah, we did a little bit of work over in What Air, and just wanted to know whether those guys over there come over for these types of events.
So they didn't this time. I did see them at Crab, like a lot of the strong women from that we did a forum at Crab Claw, not last week, week before. So I met up with a lot of the women from What Air over there. So there was about 270 traditional women from across the NT that. It was amazing. The only thing that was really difficult for me was the fact that I had to sleep in a tent. I thought, I can do this. I used to love camping, but being 51 now, my back's stuffed. I can't do it anymore. Yeah, so that was hard. That was really hard, but we still loved it. Mate put crab pots out. The crocodile took it.
Yeah. Not gonna argue with that.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. I have been back to What Air. I do love What Air. I think it's a beautiful community. I think the people are gorgeous. Like, I love them. But they have so many, struggles and lack of support. There's just nothing over there. And I really feel for them. Lack of everything. There's just nothing to help them. And that I struggle with.
Yeah. JB goes over there, but don't you, JB and Lisa?
Yeah. Oh, look, yeah, and I agree totally with you, Karen. I mean, look, some of the things that happen there, like when you got fly in, fly out workers selling bottles of alcohol for $500 and shit like that. I mean, it just really does my head in when you're seeing people making money out of our mobs, and as you both said, I mean, just absolute beautiful community there, and they got their struggles, but who hasn't? You know what I mean? So, like, we spent a bit of time there, and just to get to know, community members there was just fantastic. So, I've got a really high regard for What Air Mob, but I think every community that we go into, and there's a fair few, I just, I got not a lot of bad things to say. I mean, like we all hear the negative shit that goes on in our communities, but we don't get to celebrate what the good things are that are going on. So just to hear you talking about your work and that sort of stuff, I think it's just absolutely fantastic. And, as I said, I mean, we see good programs happening whenever and wherever we go. And we just want to talk about that and celebrate, the good things that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hoping they'll get me over for more program happens.
Yeah, that's right. And it's interesting. You go into some communities and you feel like there's some really positive things happening. There's a bit of hope that things will turn around, and then you go to other communities where there are positive things happening, but then it just gets kind of, I don't know, absorbed in all the drama that happens there.
Yeah.
And you can't see. For me, I just think, wow, this is going to be going on forever. It's just like what's happening over in Palestine or whatever. It's just going to continue to happen, and it's never ending. But I think that those communities that are like that, and what is one of those as well, that really need to, whoever, I'm saying the federal government or the state government, need to actually have a look at that and see what they can do. Go in and do the, consultations, engage with community, and get some of their, ideas about how things can turn around, instead of doing that, top-down type of approach. I think that's where the solutions come from.
I think you're spot on, brother. I mean, we all know that the top-down approach doesn't work. So, it's got to be led from community. It's got to be led from the bottom up. And, like, I too, my favourite word is hope. So I'm a big believer in that. And, like when last trip, if we talk about What Air, the last trip that we were there, the older fellas had a lot of hope in their conversation and in their lives, but a lot of the young ones didn't see a lot of hope. So, that was a little bit sad to hear them talking about there's, not a lot there for them. So it's about, as you said before, Karen, about creating that safe space for, mobs to be able to do what they need to do. It's not about us coming in and telling them what they can and they can't do. It's about what they want to do and what they know what they need to do. And if we're able to stand side by side with them, I think it goes a long way to helping our mobs. So yeah, I just want to thank you for all your work that you do in our communities as well. And it's really good to hear. And as we always say, like, if we're in for the money, we wouldn't be in this game. I can tell you. So.
I'm broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all broke. But
we know that feeling.
I'm passionate about helping my people.
Yeah. And I think that what you're doing is great. I think that all the travel you do, that Arnie's is right behind you in terms of your passion. So I think that there should be Arnie's, like you said, all over the place. Really, places where
Aunties and uncles.
people can go. Yeah, it's that kind of transition. It's that place where they go, that a preferred place to go, and they can do the clinical stuff later once they get through. I feel confident about doing something. You know what I mean? So it's kind of they get thrown in the deep end, and like you say, they either sink or swim. You know what I mean? And a lot of times they just leave. Yeah.
Best
but
way.
you're doing
Best
a great
way.
job, Kat. Yeah.
Sorry.
I said that's the best way. Like, it seriously is. Sometimes, people don't need that clinical side of things. They need, that non-clinical approach and that safe space that's been set up. And, all kudos to you guys for doing what you do. And again, thank you. So.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I'm very like I said, I'll always make sure, like with Gap, I'm very grateful for Gap for having Gap, because wouldn't have been able to do it without Gap and having the same passion that I've got.
Fantastic.
We've so a good mate down in a place called Kenya, and their youth program got defunded, so nothing's happening for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So isn't it funny? They seem to defund the programs that are working for our people.
Yeah,
That's
that's why I think the path that you guys have and not relying on government to fund that. It's that's how it's going to keep going, I suppose. Yeah,
and it's
keeping the
hard.
doors open.
it's a hard
It
road,
is
but
hard.
it's a hard road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's been a pleasure, Karen. Thank you for coming on. Very short notice. I know you just got home and said, "Oh yeah, feeling a bit tired." I can't imagine you not being tired after what you do every day.
Yeah. Oh, and while we're here, she's just sitting here. This is
there she is.
So she's training to be a mental health therapy dog.
Yeah.
Oh, very
We
good.
got one of those too. So
yeah. Take them in all in.
Yeah.
I take all my dogs into Dondale. The kids loved them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. They'd enjoy that, yeah. Well, look, we'll have to get you back on again sometime in the future when you've gone and done all your stuff, and we'll see how you're progressing, I suppose, which is always good. And it's always good. Like we set this up some time ago when COVID was on, and we wanted just to reach out to people who are struggling a bit in isolation, all that kind of stuff, and. It's always good to sort of connect, I suppose, and have a chat to some people about, things that that concern you and make you happy and all those types of things. So, you have been going since when, March 2020, JB?
Yeah, 4.5 years, just over 4.5 years now. So,
doing this, yeah. And I know Karen's got some aspirations to doing a blog or getting into that.
Yep. I'd love to do it.
You should do it.
Yeah, and get these voices heard again,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've got the technology, let's use it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Have a great week.
No worries.
Rest of the week. Yeah.
Thanks for everyone.
Look forward to catching up here at some stage, but thank everyone for joining us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Karen.
We'll see you next Monday.
Thanks,